Hi everyone, and welcome to the kickoff webinar for the National DPC RAM Benchmarking Project. My name is Sarah Lake, and I'm the Digital Preservation Librarian at Concordia University, and also Carl's Visiting Program Officer for Digital Preservation. And I'm co-leading this project with Amanda Tomei, who's also on the call. Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda, and I am the Digital Preservation Coordinator for the Digital Research Alliance of Canada. A lot of digitals everywhere in our titles. And I'm responsible for the data retention and data preservation in our repository further.
Awesome. So Amanda and I are here today to provide information about Carl's benchmarking project, a project whose aim is to help institutions across Canada benchmark their digital preservation capabilities. I'd like to start by acknowledging with gratitude that I am located on the unceded traditional lands and waters of the Ganagahaga Nation, who are part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. As a white settler who was born and raised here, I recognize that my relationship to this place comes with a responsibility and a commitment to acting with respect and with reciprocity. I promise to continue supporting Indigenous-led initiatives and organizations and seeking ways to deepen those relationships through ongoing action. I encourage you to share where you're joining from in the chat if you'd like, and visit nativeland.ca to learn more about where you're located. So I won't go into the code of conduct since Elizabeth mentioned that already, but I will give it a little overview of today's call. I'll start by introducing Carl and the working group to give some context to the project. I'll give an overview of the scope and goals of the project. And then we're also very lucky to have Anna Perici of the Digital Preservation Coalition on the call today. Anna has prepared a short presentation, a little introduction on the DPC RAM, and she'll also be available to answer any questions. We'll then go over how to submit the results of your assessment, and we'll provide details about the resources that we've put together to provide extra support to those of you who are completing the assessment. We'll also talk about the office hours that we're going to be hosting later this month, and we'll share next steps to get involved with the project, and we'll have some time for questions and a short poll at the end. So as Elizabeth mentioned, there will be a French language version of this call tomorrow. But if anyone would like to ask questions in French, you are more than welcome to. Ça me ferait plaisir de traduire et de répondre aux questions en français. And also, Amanda, if you can keep an eye on the chat for me if I miss any questions and just give me a shout, that would be awesome. Thank you. All right. For anyone who's not familiar with the Canadian Association of Research Libraries, CARL is a member organization consisting of 29 major Canadian academic libraries, as well as 3 federal libraries. This slide here gives a little overview of CARL's programs and current activities. CARL provides leadership on behalf of Canada's research libraries and enhances their capacity to advance research in higher education. CARL's work is supported by several strategic committees, each focusing on specific areas. And these committees consist of experts from member libraries who contribute their knowledge and expertise to advance CARL's mission. So the benchmarking project that we are presenting today is led by CARL's Digital Preservation Working Group, which supports the mandate of the Advancing Research Committee. The working group works towards the long-term stewardship of Canada's digital scholarly record and documentary heritage. Its work includes assessing digital preservation capacity and available resources within the Canadian research community, identifying and promoting relevant approaches, standards, practices, and technologies, as well as liaising with relevant international efforts. The DPWG has also organized the National At-Risk North Summits on digital preservation. The working group includes members from national institutions such as Library and Archives Canada, as well as the Bibliothèque et Archives nationales du Québec, and research libraries and archives across the country. More information and the current membership can be found on CARL's website. So to give you just a little overview of the project that we're presenting, This project grew out of findings from At-Risk North 3, which took place in November 2024 in Gatineau. Gaining insight into the state of digital preservation in Canada was identified as a high priority, and a national benchmarking exercise was one of the action items that was recommended in the summit report. And I'll actually just put a link to the report in the chat if anyone is curious to read it. So a project subcommittee was formed within the DPWG to facilitate this benchmarking exercise. We are using the Digital Preservation Coalition's Rapid Assessment Model, also known as DPC RAM, as our benchmarking tool for this project. And I will let Anna speak a bit more about the RAM specifically, but for now, I'll just say that it's a maturity modeling tool that allows for rapid benchmarking of an organization's digital preservation capability. It's designed to be adaptable for a wide range of institutions and contexts, which is one of the reasons why we chose it for this project. And it's also designed to help you set goals for your digital preservation program and facilitate continuous improvement over time. So the project is being rolled out in two phases. A pilot phase already took place last fall, where CARL member institutions were invited to complete a RAM assessment as a cohort. The second phase starts officially today and includes the broader preservation community in Canada. So libraries, archives, repositories, museums, galleries, and any other Canadian organizations that are engaged in digital preservation are invited to complete a RAM assessment as part of this project. And although this is a CARL-led project, you don't need to be a member of CARL to participate in this phase. And if it's your first benchmarking exercise, we are here to support you. So I'll be walking you through the resources that we've created to help those of you who are perhaps new to benchmarking or maybe not sure where to start. So if you do complete a RAM assessment as part of this project, you are invited to submit your anonymized results to CARL. We will analyze the data to produce a report for the community, which will allow us to identify collective goals for improvement and to be able to target areas to build capacity on a national level. So before I hand things off to Anna to speak about RAM, I will just pause here for any questions and also a quick poll. So I will just exit my slideshow for a second, and I will share the link to the poll in the chat. So I just wanted to get a sense from whoever's in the room today, how many people have previously done a RAM assessment? Okay, so I'm seeing there's a good number of people who haven't, which is great. I think I briefly saw a hand go up, but then someone put their hand back down. So if you have a question, please feel free to speak up. All right. Okay, great. Well, thank you for answering that. That's really helpful for us to know, actually. And I'm really glad to see that there's a lot of folks who are new to the RAM in the room. So I think Anna's presentation will be really helpful. Okay, so I will just exit this again and I will play Anna's video. Um, Okay, so you should be able to see the video. I will full screen it. Um, okay. And if someone can just give me a thumbs up that they have sound, that would be great.
Welcome everyone to this introduction to DPC's Rapid Assessment Model, RAM, for Phase 2 of CARL's DPC RAM benchmarking project. My name is Anna Perici. I'm the head of DPC Americas, and DPC stands for Digital Preservation Coalition, of course. So first of all, thank you for your interest in DPC RAM and your interest in this benchmarking project and, all the rest with the digital preservation work you do. Many, many thanks to Carl and the Digital Preservation Working Group members of Carl, especially Sarah Lake and Amanda Tomei. It's been a pleasure working with them, and I'm so excited about moving forward with this pilot. So what is DPC RAM? It's a rapid assessment model. It's a maturity model for digital preservation specifically. RAM can help you work out where you are and where you'd like to be with regards to your digital preservation. It can help with other elements of your digital preservation work, for example, forward planning and making the case for resources needed to do this essential job. So, a short history of DPC RAM. It was developed as part of a collaborative project with the UK's Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. It was launched at IPRES, the Digital Preservation Conference, in 2019. It's largely based on a model by Adrian Brown, and that model is published in Practical Digital Preservation, which is a book. The cover is on this slide. Also notable, it was a Digital Preservation Award winner in 2014. Keep an eye out for the DPC channels about the Digital Preservation Awards for 2026. Nominations are open now. Anyway, so for the RAM, it was developed with feedback from Adrian Brown, as well as the wider DPC membership. So guiding principles. RAM is developed based on a set of guiding principles that it should be applicable for organizations of any size and in any sector, applicable for all content of long-term value, preservation strategy and solution agnostic, based on existing good practice, simple to understand and quick to apply. Also, continuous improvement is central and essential. So what does RAM look like? Here you see the 11 categories in RAM broken down into the organizational capabilities and the service capabilities. We have the headings as well as some explanation, and I've also noted that the scores range from 0 to 4, and we'll talk a little bit more about what specifically that means. So we're going to look at maturity levels as they apply to the definition of organizational viability. So minimal awareness, 0, is that the organization has minimal awareness of the need to support digital preservation activities. It's barely aware, and it's certainly not doing very much, if anything. Awareness, the organization is aware of the need to support digital preservation activities. Basic, digital preservation activities are supported and resourced at a basic level within the organization. On the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about examples and unpacking basic a bit more. Manage, 3, is digital preservation activities are managed and supported within the organization. This is a highly functional program. And optimized, 4, digital preservation activities are proactively managed, enhanced, and developed within the organization. So examples to help. What might basic look like for organizational viability? So digital preservation activities are supported and resourced at a basic level within the organization. For example, there's some engagement from senior management. Staff have assigned responsibilities and the time to undertake them. A budget for digital preservation has been allocated, maybe time limited, maybe more stable, and staff development requirements have been identified. But remember, these are only examples. You can use them to help to define where you are, but they may not be directly applicable to you. So, how to use DPC RAM? You're working out where you sit currently. We ask you to be honest and realistic. Please know that there are no half marks. When in doubt, round down. And of course, don't take the examples too literally. We know that there needs to be flexibility, and there's always the it depends part of digital preservation, which is very large. So also, you're working out where you'd like to be. Again, be realistic. Also, don't assume you must aim for the top for a score of number 4. It may not be necessary, it may not be attainable. And also consider the time frame in which you're working. So this is a screenshot of the RAM worksheet, which is an Excel sheet, and this just gives you a brief view of what you'd be filling in. And here's a visualization that the spreadsheet can generate. This particular visualization actually has 3 years of data in it. So you can see how this sample organization has either stayed steady, grown, and in 1 or 2 cases receded and then grown again. It's important to realize that as you do DPC RAM over multiple years, your scores may go down initially because you will find you didn't know what you didn't know and have a more nuanced understanding of digital preservation as time goes on. So it's never something to worry about if you are going from a 2 to a 1 or, a 3 to a 2 because you are considering additional factors and thinking more deeply about where your program fits and falls into these categories. So it's important to note that RAM is available in English and French, as well as several other languages. So a big part of this is defining the scope of your assessment. What is the scope in terms of what part of the organization are you measuring and what digital assets are in scope? For example, all digital archives, research data, business records, digitized audiovisual materials, digitized documents, websites, and so on, or all of the above. So, define the date for targets. Consider the timeline for your target levels. The model asks you where you would like to be, but it makes a difference when that is. If we're talking about 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or a more undefined abstract point in the future. So, the benefits of a collaborative RAM assessment. While it's okay to carry out a RAM assessment on your own, there are many benefits to doing it as a collaborative exercise with colleagues. For example, it's helpful to have a range of views and expertise if you have colleagues that would have relevant views and expertise to the RAM's topics. More people make the assessment less subjective, potentially. Increases the doing it together increases understanding of the shared challenge that is digital preservation. So we fortunately have a new TechWatch report on this very topic of coordinating an interdepartmental rapid assessment model. It's written by Carrie May, and it talks about her experience and her colleagues' experience doing RAM together at University of Pittsburgh. So self-assessment is the first step. After completing a RAM assessment, you may want to do some of the following. Share it with colleagues to start a conversation. Include it in a business case for digital preservation. You can use it to set priorities. Which areas would you like to focus on first? Where would you like to progress first? You can use it to establish a roadmap or plan for moving forward. It also can be useful to create an aspirational digital preservation policy that reflects your goals. So, repetition. It's useful to do the RAM assessment once to start, but it's even better to do it regularly. We recommend an annual check in on the current status and targets. Revisiting shouldn't take very long, and this is a hugely valuable step to keep an eye on where things are, your progress, if things are backsliding, or if you're kind of learning more about what each category entails, or have a deeper knowledge of certain areas. And also, as I mentioned, don't be surprised or worried if you have decreases in scores. Sometimes it's a good sign that you have a more thorough understanding of certain categories. So, RAM for DPC members. DPC is a member-supported charity based in the UK, and part of DPC membership is getting support on your RAM assessment. We have events to help members with RAM, including sessions, like kind of help sessions with office hours. We also have RAM Jam, which is an annual event where case studies, lessons learned, and more are shared. Members share their results with us, and we are able to share anonymized results with their fellow members. There are also complimentary resources that are open and available to all members and non-members alike. That includes the Digital Preservation Coalition Competency Audit Toolkit, CAT, Novice to Know-How, which is an online training series co-sponsored by the National Archives in the UK. It includes a really good Introduction to Digital Preservation course that is used for core training as well as cross-training across institutions. We also have toolkits for advocacy, business cases, policy making, and more. So the role of the DPC in this pilot. So this is a self-assessment for your institution and the collective CARL dataset, but no one is here to tell you what score you should give yourself. We are not here to judge. We are here to be supportive. The RAM score should be considered confidential, and we do encourage you to ask for help and support first of Sarah Lake if you are not a DPC member. Of course, if you're a DPC member, you can reach right out to us, but maybe copy Sarah so she has an awareness of what's going on. But we are so thrilled that this pilot is happening and are really happy to be part of supporting it. So here's another web page. This includes more information about RAM, including an introduction and a video that is uses a slide deck similar to this one, but goes into things a little bit different approach. So after completing your RAM assessment, you can share it with Carl, as mentioned, and you can also consider what skills are needed to help you reach your RAM targets. You can do this using the Competency Audit Toolkit, CAT, and basically you're able to think about what are the component skills that you need to meet your goals. Where are the biggest points for growth? And then you can help pinpoint, ways in which you can develop as a professional. So DPC is supported by our members, as I mentioned. I am so excited that we have a number of members in Canada and a growing group of members in Canada. So big thanks to all of you. And I'm excited to announce that the CBC is our newest member. So welcome to them. And let's see, thank you. And special thanks to Michael Popham for his support and expertise in preparing this presentation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Anna, for that great presentation. And very exciting news about the CBC. I didn't know this.
We haven't gotten a chance to announce it quite yet. We're wordsmithing the press release, but we are absolutely thrilled. Yeah.
That's really great. Uh, any questions for Anna about DPC, about RAM? I'll also just echo that the DPC really has such incredible resources that are freely available, and we're very happy to be using the RAM for this project. So it's very much a mutual, mutually beneficial collaboration. So thank you, Anna. All right. Well, if there's no questions for now, I think maybe we'll continue with the presentation. Um, and if any questions come up as I'm speaking, feel free to just put them in the chat for Anna. But yeah, thank you again very much, Anna, for that. That was great. Um, okay, let me just find my notes again. Oh, we do have a question from Sarah in the chat. Is there an estimated time for completing the RAM? Very good question. Anna, do you want to take this one?
It's meant to be hours, not days or weeks or months. Some people who have done RAM for the first time realize that maybe even finding their collection size will take more than half an hour. There are certain factors that will come up that could impact the amount of time it takes, but the intent is for it to be a few hours. And don't feel bad if it's more than a few hours, but certainly don't feel like you need to put aside a working week or a month or something like that to do this process.
Yeah, I think what I've generally heard from people is that the first time takes a bit longer, but yeah, it's more a matter of hours than days. Um, Amanda and James both have their hand up.
I can go first really quickly. So James McGregor here from CRKN. I did a first pass at the DPC RAM just as part of the original pilot benchmarking project. I think it took me a couple of hours. I did it really rapidly because I was very late to return it to Amanda. But you can do it fairly quickly. I've been thinking just as part of this call, like comparing it to some of the other benchmarking tools I've used, like a HECFAT or a VPAT, it is orders of magnitude more quick. But I think just thinking about Anna, what you've said in there, like this is sort of the second or third time you go through this, you can start to find things or figure out the unknowns. That's where it maybe starts to become a little bit more nuanced and interesting. And I'm very curious about doing this again, even with like 6 months in the rear view here.
Thank you.
And I think in addition to what James said, I think it also depends how you're doing the RAM assessment. So are you multiple people or are you a single person? Reaching consensus can sometimes take a while. So don't get discouraged if it takes longer. I definitely thought I was taking too long on my first assessment, which was like a couple of days because I kept on getting pulled away from doing it. But I think in the pilot phase, if I recall correctly, the most people said it took them about 8 hours to complete. So you can use that as your benchmark for your benchmarking project.
That's really helpful. And it's an excellent point that sometimes including more people can take more time, but boy, oh boy, can it be helpful also if you've got multiple staff members involved.
Any other questions? That was a really good question. Thank you for that, Sarah. All right. Well, then I think we will move on, but please keep putting your questions in the chat and we'll address them as they come up. Okay, um, so as Anna has demonstrated, there's a lot of benefits to completing a benchmarking assessment, and we hope that you will find it helpful for your organization's planning and goals if you choose to complete one. And so once you have completed your assessment, we encourage you to submit your results to Carl. One of the main goals of this project is to create a snapshot of the state of digital preservation in Canada, in order to identify areas that we can target to build capacity. So we strongly encourage participants to submit their results to contribute to the success of the project. However, it is completely voluntary, so you do not have to submit. Submission process is completely anonymous as well. We've created anonymized versions of the DPC RAM templates, which are available in our resource package. And we ask that you use these anonymized versions just in order to protect your privacy and also to ensure consistency across submissions. Adding a quick note here to say that if you have completed a RAM assessment in the last 36 months independently of this project, you are welcome to submit it as is. And also, if you are a Carl member who submitted your results as part of the pilot project last fall, you do not need to resubmit. We are including those submissions in the data analysis for phase 2. I do see that we have someone asking in the chat if we can get a link to the project webpage, and I'm sure that we can do that. I will let Amanda take care of it. Thank you for that. So as I was mentioning, we have set up a submissions folder that's anonymous using Nextcloud, which is on the project webpage that Amanda just linked. The Nextcloud servers that we're using are hosted at Simon Fraser University, so all the data stays in Canada. And the submitted results will be reviewed by the DPWG, and aggregated results will be deposited to the Federated Research Data Repository, FRDR. And if you want more information on how the data will be used, you can see our submissions guidelines in the resources package. So we have gathered all the project resources in a directory, which is available on the project webpage. Everything is available in English and in French. And I want to thank all the members of the subcommittee who worked really hard to put these together, and also to the French-speaking members of the working group who helped review our translations. So thank you, everyone, for making this happen. So the resource package includes a short guide to getting started with some helpful tips on planning and completing your assessment, which I really recommend checking out if it's your first time completing a RAM assessment. We also have some project FAQs, which we will probably be adding to continuously as we get more excellent questions. We've created anonymized versions of the DPC RAM template, as we mentioned, and we've also created a code book that provides some instructions on how to fill in the information portion of the assessment, which will just help us ensure consistency in our data analysis. We've also included some use cases with completed assessments from different types of institutions that you can use as examples. And finally, we have a copy of the project timeline for reference, as well as guidelines for submitting your results once your assessment is complete. We'll also be adding a copy of these slides and of Anna's presentation after this webinar is done. So to provide additional support for participants, we will also be hosting what we're calling office hours. So we hosted these in the pilot this fall as well. They're essentially informal community sessions that we envision as a friendly space to ask questions, get some feedback, or just have some dedicated time to work on your assessment. Members of the working group will be present to help facilitate the conversation or to address any project-specific questions. But it's really envisioned as a kind of peer support event where participants can collectively share knowledge and tackle tough questions together. We'll be hosting one session in English and one in French, and registration information will be shared next week on the CARL website as well as through various listservs. If there's a high demand, we may also host additional sessions in May. So I'll just finish off with a little overview of the project and next steps. So the pilot phase last fall is completed and phase 2 starts today. So later in April, we'll be hosting office hours, like I mentioned, and then the benchmarking period will be from April to June 2026. So if you would like to participate, you have until the end of June to complete and submit your RAM assessment. Between July and October, the subcommittee will analyze the submitted results and produce a report. And in November, we plan to publish and disseminate this report and hold some community town halls to discuss next steps. So if you're ready to do some benchmarking with us, here are next steps to participate in the project. So you can go to the resources folder that we shared and download your DPC RAM template, check out the Getting Started guide, and spread the word. So CARL is obviously a more library-focused network, but we're really hoping to get responses from a wide range of organizations and practitioners. So please share with your networks, share with your colleagues as well. Register for the office hours. So as I mentioned, an email with a registration link will be sent out as well as on the CARL website as of next week. And once your assessment is complete, consider submitting your anonymized results to CARL. And if you have any questions about the project, feel free to write to us at this email. And I just want to thank you all for your interest in this project.